you know when you do your makeup and you look in the mirror and you think, yeah, and then you try and take a picture, or you look on the screen and you're like, that mirror was trolling me. The mirror was trolling me. Right. Hello everyone. So I am currently today 36 weeks pregnant, so I'm going to cover weeks 34 and 35, and because again I didn't upload. I was actually going to, and then I just got like a little bit overwhelmed with Christmas and all that stuff, so I'm going to fill you in. So 2 weeks ago, when I was 34 weeks pregnant, this is like the main thing, I went and got a IV. My brain's gone blank. I should have wrote it down. I didn't make any notes this week because she's so stupid, because you know what my brain is like, it just doesn't work. An iron infusion through an IV drip in my hand. So that was like the big thing that week, where I went into hospital and had that done. And I was like freaking out because I don't like injections and things, which obviously I've had loads of, and I've had loads of blood tests, and I've had millions of needles stuck into me over the years, but because I had never had one before, I was a bit like, oh my god. But it was actually fine. The worst part was the actual just them putting it in your hand, and if you've ever given birth, you've probably had the cannula put in anyway. I've always had it put in my hand and never needed it attached to fluid after birth, but they tend to give it you just in case you need fluids. But obviously then this time they attached it to some iron. I put it over on my Instagram. If you want to go and look at the pictures, it's under the story baby number 5. And yeah, I might try and put a picture here just so you can see kind of like what it looks like. It looks like blood, but then as it's going through the wire, it's more like a orangey kind of colour. But yeah, when it was like in the big bottle thing, it's like really confined, so it looks like really red, but it's more like an orangey kind of iron colour, I guess. So that was that. I can't really remember what I'd said, if I'd been to the midwife or not. So now I'm at the end of the pregnancy. I'm seeing the midwife every 2 weeks. So I'd seen the midwife at 34 weeks, and then I saw the midwife yesterday at basically 36 weeks. So I think I told you about the contractions. If I hadn't, let me briefly tell you. So a couple of weeks ago, I was up at night and I was timing my contractions, because they weren't like the regular Braxton Hicks that I'd had. They were literally like, they were coming every 3 minutes. They were keeping me awake with the pain, and it was all in the bottom of my back as well, which I've never had. I never normally get back labour. So I was thinking, because it was different, I thought, oh, maybe it's a different labour, because with the girls, my waters broke and the contractions started and they were born like an hour later. So I was kind of like, oh, it's nothing, it's just Braxton Hicks, because if I was in labour, I'd be in labour. But then the back pain started, so I thought, oh, maybe I'm labouring differently, because obviously no labours are the same, so I thought maybe it's a different labour. So I was timing them, and then all the way through the night until 6 AM they were coming religiously every 3 minutes, and my contraction app was like, get to the hospital, get to the hospital. Every 4 contractions it gives you like a little update of what it thinks. I didn't go because I kind of had a feeling it wasn't. I didn't really want to like wasting my time. I know that sounds silly because obviously I am quite near the end. I was 34 weeks, it's still quite early, but I just kind of knew that it wasn't real labour, even though it was enough to make me suspicious to time them. But I kind of just thought, if it is real labour, it was going to progress worse than this, so I just wanted to keep an eye on it. Then around 6 o'clock I managed to drift off, and then all day I was contracting, but not to that extent. So I thought, well, if it was real labour it would have got worse, so that's fine. And I was at the midwife the next day, so I thought I'll mention it to her. Whereas if I'd have maybe not had a midwife appointment for a couple of weeks, I might have rang the PAU. But because I had the midwife, I thought, nah, I'll just ask the midwife. So don't worry, like, I would ring if I thought there was anything, but because I was seeing the midwife, I thought I'll just ask her. So I told her, and when I got to the midwife, I started to have a show, like your mucus plug, but it didn't have blood in it. So that's the thing. So I'm not sure if it actually was the mucus plug or if it was just, you know, gross stuff. Obviously, if you've been pregnant or whatever, or you are pregnant, you probably googled what the mucus plug is or the bloody show. So it seemed like that, but just without the blood in, and she said that sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes that can be in it, something that doesn't, but it doesn't really mean anything, because you can lose your mucus plug at any point during your pregnancy, and then you could even lose it at like 20 weeks and your body would just grow it back. So it doesn't really mean anything, but because of how intense the contractions were, and then that happened, like I feel like that happened because of the contractions, and the baby kind of just got really heavy, like in between my legs, heavy, like a lot heavier than I've explained before. So the contractions did something, like whether they were just moving him down into the pelvis or what. Obviously I'm still pregnant, 36 weeks now, so I didn't have the baby, but I knew they were doing something. Obviously it's my 5th pregnancy, so I was like, So at the midwife, she kind of like checked me out and confirmed that yeah, he was engaged. She said there's not much point checking if I'm dilating, because this is my 5th pregnancy. It wouldn't be unusual for me to be 1, 2, 3 centimeters dilated even and be walking around for a few weeks. Like it doesn't really mean much at all. It's just your body can just prepare for a few weeks before. So she said all that good stuff. So basically it's just a waiting game. So I had my midwife appointment yesterday, and she said, oh, I wasn't expecting to see you, I thought you would have had the baby, because she said it sounds like everything, in my last appointment she was like, it sounds like your body's just getting ready to have a baby. And just a little history, if this is the first video you've seen of mine, my eldest son was born at 36 weeks, naturally, just went into spontaneous labour at 36 weeks. My second was born at 40 weeks, which is the only one that I've had at full term, and then my girls were born at 37. So out of 4 babies, 3 were born preterm, but nothing, they weren't unhealthy, they didn't need any NICU, or any kind of care, they literally were just born completely healthy. So I'm not sure what that was about. So they were born around 36, 37 weeks, all bar 1. So, and given how quick my labours are, even my baby that I had at full term, literally my contractions started at like 3, where they were just like, ooh, am I going to, you know, when you're like wondering if you're going to labour, and then he was born at 5. So within me questioning am I in labour and him being born, that was 2 hours, and that was my longest labour. And with the girls, it was my waters broke, straight into full active labour, and they were born Azzy like an hour and a half after my waters broke, and same with Snow, and from contraction from beginning to end like about an hour. So given how quick my labours are, and the fact that I do give birth earlier, she kind of thought it would be plausible that I would have given birth by now, but I haven't. So anyway, I went to my 36 weeks midwife appointment yesterday, and she checked, and he's obviously still engaged, 3/5 engaged, but she said again that means nothing. And she said it's not unusual for mums who aren't first time mums, which obviously I'm not, that your baby is free, like completely not engaged until you go into labour. But he's been engaged for quite a while now. At my 34-week scan, he was breech, which again doesn't really mean much, but between the scan and my 34-week midwife appointment, he'd engaged, and obviously he's still engaged and he's lower down, so it could literally be any day, because you can engage as you go into labour. Like your baby can not be engaged and you could be in labour and it can come out, so being engaged doesn't really mean too much either. But he is 3/5 engaged, so that's good, because he's not gonna pop back out again. What else? I've been getting this really strange backache. I get backache in the top of my back normally, and I've had that ever since my 2nd pregnancy, which was 9 years ago, over 9 years ago. And with Bo, something happened in my back, and I've had backache in this one specific spot ever since, which is not like when I get that backache, that's just like my backache. But this backache is completely different. It's in the bottom of my back, really low down, it's hard to explain it because it's new to me as well. I'll try and explain it to the midwife, and it's not constant. I keep getting like these spasms where I want to like lift myself up off my back, but obviously you can't, you're attached to your back, and it like pulses, and it's like a spasm, and then it goes away. And the only thing I can try and explain it to is if you've ever had anxiety or some kind of chest pain where it feels like you've got a corset on and someone's squeezing it really tight, and you're like, oh, and you feel really tight in your chest, but obviously there's nothing squeezing you, it just feels tight, and then it goes away. Similar to that, if you've had an anxiety attack or anything, you'll kind of know that feeling of the corset on your chest, but it's on the feeling I'm in the bottom of my back, and it kind of pulses, and sometimes it shoots up my spine as well, but it's kind of like a feeling where you want to get yourself off it, but I'm not sure what that is. So I don't know if that's lightning, when the baby is going into your pelvis and you feel, normal people feel a lightening, and it's called lightning because it's like a sharp stabbing pain in your pelvis, but maybe the midwife said even possibly is hitting a nerve that's making it shoot up my back instead. Not entirely sure, she didn't know what that was, but I thought it's worth a mention in case any of you have had that strange back pulsing. I even tried to like time it, because there was a few days, it started happening about Christmas Eve, and today is the 30th, so it's been happening for a good five days now, 6 days, somewhere around there. And there was one day where it kept happening, so I timed it and it was coming about every 7 minutes, and I was like, these are not some kind of strange contractions, but again the rhythm and the pattern's gone, so if it was contractions it would have been like a permanent thing, but it wasn't. And so yeah, so the back pain thing, another thing is the heartburn is getting really bad to the point where I'm like awake at night, like being woken up and having to have Rene, and it's worse than it was before, which I thought was horrendous, but now it's even worse, and it's, I don't know what I can really do about it other than take Rene, but the Rene doesn't even seem to do anything. I have to try and prop myself up, but again it doesn't really seem to take away the burning feeling. I mean, it does go away eventually and then I manage to go back to sleep, but it's waking me up more than anything else. The heartburn, it's every night now, and it's agony. So I don't know, this baby's probably gonna be like super hairy. My ribs are bruised all up here from him his back must be going up this side, and his knees bent with his feet up here, and his feet keep getting stuck on my ribs, and I could feel it like popping through, and I think I said that a couple of weeks ago, but now because of how big he is, every time his like foot touches it now, it's like, oh, because he's bruised my ribs from the inside, so that's fun. So I'm expecting him to be like this massive baby at this point, this massive hairy baby, because he's managed to bruise me. He just feels absolutely massive, and he's giving me all this heartburn, so he's clearly got a lot of hair, but we'll see. But yes, so I am 36 weeks today, and we are officially on baby watch because this is the earliest that I have gone into labour. Naturally, I was my first son, who's 11 now, I was just chilling. I went to the bathroom, noticed that I had a bit of blood, nothing much, just blood, and obviously any kind of thing like that you want to be checked. So I went into the hospital, like I said, 36 weeks, and they checked me over and said, oh no, you're fine, the baby's fine. Obviously they do all the checks to make sure, because any kind of bleeding you just want to make sure. And they had me on a machine and all that stuff, like checking the baby's heartbeat. And while I was in the hospital and they were ready to discharge me, they were like, you can go home, my contractions started, and then he was born at 36 weeks. So that was like the best scenario, going into labour in a hospital bed in the labour unit of the hospital. Like that was like the ideal situation. Still didn't manage to get pain relief though, because, well, I did, I had the pethidine injections in my leg, and then they said to me, hold off having anything else, you're going to be in labour a long time, we'll give it to you nearer the time. And then all of a sudden they were like, oops, the baby's coming. And because I was like, I could feel everything, the pain, because the drug had obviously wore off, the pethidine injection. And they were like, oh, well, when you get nearer that point, when it wears off, we'll give you something stronger, like the epidural or something. Anyway, it wore off, and they were like, oh, sorry, the baby's coming now. And then my second, third and fourth, no drugs again. So I've had 4 natural births. I've never once had the epidural, which, I mean, is, I suppose, a good thing, but like, now I'm pregnant again, it's making me feel sick thinking about having another pain pain-free birth, not pain-free, drug-free birth. Obviously once it's done, it's like something to brag about, I guess, because you could be like, I didn't have any drugs and I had birth. But the pain in the moment is absolutely excruciating, and I'm starting to feel like anxiety over it, because there's just nothing you can do. Like, it's not through choice, it's literally the fact that the baby's come that fast. I don't have an option to have the drugs. They gave me the pethidine last time, and they said it takes 30 minutes to kick in, and it didn't kick in until I was in the shower after birth because the baby just came out, so there was no point in having it. I'm getting hot thinking about it. But yes, so we're going to be officially on baby watch. I'm going to try and upload some more videos, I don't even know what, but just to try and keep you in the loop. I know I've been absolutely terrible this time, but yes, but I hope you all had a lovely Christmas. Tomorrow is New Year, so I hope you all have a lovely New Year. Azzy's birthday is on the 6th, so if you watched my pregnancy videos last time, she's turning 1 on the 6th, so there you go, you've been here for a whole year. And yeah, so I'm going to hopefully do maybe my hospital bag, maybe, I don't know, I don't think I'm going to do the baby mama dance again. I'm not sure. I kind of want to, but also I'm kind of like, I did it all once already, you know what I mean? Like, what can you do again? I'm going to try and film the labour again. Failed miserably last time, as you saw, because my husband is just absolutely rubbish. And obviously I was in no fit situation to be picking up the camera, so most of the footage was from after the birth. But whether or not that happens again, I will obviously take you along for the hospital visit and all that. If not for anything else, then purely just for my own memories, because obviously you want to film the cute newborn, don't you? And for any of you interested, you can of course watch it as well. I haven't been posted on Instagram, but you can go follow me over there. It will be linked down below as always. I will be posting again. I just took a break over Christmas. Yeah, like this video, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace.